suggest this. Like, the name will come. Thinking about the name when we haven't done anything yet is kind of like, fair. I get it, but like, the way we're doing this thing, it's like naming our first album before we've played a song together.
That's what you should do.
How do you know what you want to play?
Yeah. Also, if we're
how about you make the song and then worry about the name of the thing later?
All right, hey, welcome to first episode of whatever the hell this podcast is going to be called. I think we should introduce ourselves. I'm Kyle, Vincent Terry.
I am Vinh Tran.
I'm Tony Bruno.
I'm Chuy. Hello.
And the point of this podcast is to look at a series of a body of work in general, to discuss the intricacies of said series in a manner that dissects and overall articulates where it works, where it doesn't, and try to find new ways of looking at potentially old works, sometimes new works. I chose for the inaugural episode to look at the new Planet of the Apes series for a couple reasons. One, I believe in craftsmanship. I've been an artist my whole life. I like to say as a working artist, I'm an artist at home and a craftsman on the job. My job is to be able to produce high quality work, usually in a replicable manner, whether it be multiple takes or multiple performances, whatever. And so I look for, in things that I enjoy, people putting in the work. And I think with regards to the way movies work in a contemporary sense, we don't get as much bang for our buck. I think in general, as the prices for movies go up, the amount of input in them slacks in one venue or another. And I think these movies do a really good job, whether you like them or not, at providing substance in various categories. I think the acting from all of the people who play the apes, we can talk about the humans later, is quite phenomenal. And I think I do and don't understand why Andy Serkis doesn't have an Oscar yet. But he's not the only one doing really strong work in this. I think, too, each one of these films is stylistically at the amplitude of the other films, with modifications and nuances that fit epic cinematic storytelling, but also delineate a different way of telling said story. I was thinking of a way to explain it before, and I thought of Mustangs. Like, I was like, oh, like this first one is like a really nice 68 Mustang. Like, it's way better built than you remember it. But when you get there, you're like, oh, there's a lot of really good detail in this like very American vehicle. And then the second one is like 2006, a little bit more advanced, a little beefier, a little more brazen, I'd say, than before. But still like with some really good thought into it. And then the last one is like fucking Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds to me. So I really wanted to pick this one because I think all three films do a fantastic job of being movies worthy of rewatching to me. And they tell a story about slavery that in a way that white people are only allowed to, which is by fucking accident. Which I think is really incredible.
Or featuring apes.
What's up? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing about it is because they're not human, they really treat them as inhuman.
Well, it's palatable.
Say that again?
It's palatable.
Yeah, like we can take it without bracing too much. And the star vehicle, white human actors don't feel too bad about doing it to where they like trying to make it, relatable or what the fuck ever. So those are like my main my main points in it. I would like to really ask people's general impressions of the trilogy. I'll start with Chuy. I'm pointing at the screen like I know.
So it's funny. I've always wanted. The same thing happened this time. On the way over here on the train, I went on Wikipedia and I reread the synopsises just to have them in my head because I've seen them all. I think I've seen them all at least twice because the same thing that happens every time is I remember liking them, but I don't remember what happens in them, and I don't remember which one I've seen or which one I haven't. So then, like, I have to go back and read the thing, and then I'm like, oh yeah, this one. Oh yeah, I have seen that one. And I go, oh yeah, I've seen that one. Oh, I've seen all of these again, but then I'll still watch them. So like, the thing that struck me was because I knew we'd be talking about this. I noticed that every time that I think about these movies, I forget which one I saw and which one I haven't, and then I realize I've seen them all already, but I still want to watch them. So I don't know what that says. The first one, to me, with James Franco, he's oddly the most forgettable character to me of all of them. Like, and I don't know why. Like,
because James Franco is awful.
Yeah, but I think also like for me, the movies are about the middle one. He is the middle one, and then like the second one. The first one sets those two up, and that's how I think of them, such that like I don't feel a lot of importance in the first one, because at that one it's like it's more like an origin story. It's kind of a hero story. You don't get into like, yeah, he gets thrown in there and he sees how he's getting treated and he like questions this shit. But like that's base level like white people shit like that is there. You don't get into like the good shit about thinking about what the hell could happen when this all goes to crap until the second two, I think. And that's where, like you say, accidentally they stumble across some like really interesting things. So yeah. I think the movies are good. They're really great. They're fun to watch. And I've never watched the old one, so I don't know how that would change these as far as like if the same sort of ideas are hit on. But
we're just going to not mention that.
Nah, we're going to hard pass.
I feel like Tony wants to, though.
The only thing is that this trilogy is loosely, mind you, based off of, I think it's, there's a series of three in the old series that this is, it's like the origin story of what happened. But it's like way different in terms of like the key parts. But generally like the story of Caesar and how he came to be and how the war started.
Yeah.
My only memories of the first ones are, and I don't know if you guys, it's a cool thing to talk to people from Chicago because my work and where I work and what I do, nobody that I interact with is of my age or from this city.
From Chicago.
So like it's annoying. But my memories of those movies are on the weekends.
Channel 66?
Yeah, or Channel 9 or Channel 50, one of them, running it as the movie of the week or whatever the hell. And I'd see the guy that's behind Tony with the blonde hair talking to the other lady, and I'd be like, I don't know what this is. And I was the only one that had to navigate myself through American pop culture because my mom didn't speak Spanish. So like there wasn't someone there to go, hey, that's the Planet of the Apes. You might want to watch it. It's pretty cool. To me, I'd be like, okay, I understand English. We got that with Sesame Street. Now I'm diving into some of this other stuff. I don't know what this monkey thing is. Keep it moving. And so I would go watch This Old House or something like that.
Yeah.
I only have one thing I want to add about the series. I think it's all been covered. The series is really compelling. The one thing that still sticks with me throughout watching all these films is how absolutely real and emotive and expressive and poignant the performances from all of the apes are, and then how almost on purpose the humans were maybe given direction or not are like cartoonish. They're overacting. They're kind of extreme. They're like these really sort of played out archetypal tropes that are super like everyone is overacting. Everyone is kind of crazy. Mostly, not everyone, but. Most of the characters are.
During the pandemic, then in those situations,
right.
people are doing that now at Starbucks.
The thing that gets me is
shit went down and people bought toilet paper.
Like, right? No. I mean, like it goes to like shit like the fucking in the first one, this Rise, right? Yeah. In Rise, the ape sanctuary where the fucking weirdo dude is just like a masochist who's like, it's a madhouse. Like, you know, he's just like this crazy cartoon performance of a human being. He's not a real person. He's just he exists purely to push the story of how poorly these apes were treated. You know, even the neighbor in the first one, the guy across the street.
I thought he was the only sympathetic character.
He was fucking awful.
He was an asshole.
His crazy character. Like, these people aren't real. They're caricatures. Yeah. And the only humanity, or is with the apes. So that's the one that you get.
Can I segue then? Can I segue quick?
Wait, hold, because I see that you're going into that. Like, we can really go right into that prompt, but I do want to say,
go for it.
Two things. Number one, the CGI work that was done in the first one was amazing at the time. The jump into the second one was a phenomenal leap.
Oh my God.
And then into the third one, you can't even tell that it's fucking CGI.
Dude, it's insane. It's insane.
It looks like prosthetic work.
It looks better than fucking Superman's face.
I also forget that these movies are
better than a mustache being taken away.
Is it 7 years apart?
One was
like 2011 to 2018, 27, something like that. They're made a long time.
Right. But I mean, even in the 2008 Rise is phenomenal work. Yeah. Like, you can tell, but like, you're like, damn, this is fucking amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So just like super kudos to like the CGI work that was being done. Mm-hmm. And then I have to say that the music is great. And it also with the movies continues to get better. In War, it is like so impactful.
And Morricone,
it really takes a front seat in the last one.
I think the humans are the thing that suffers the most, and the reason why I think they suffer the most is because they're stuck in American movie tropes, right? Like the interesting thing about having to create all these very specific apes, right, is like the general stuff we don't even recognize, right? Like, we don't recognize like individual apes as boring, right? Like, they're just en masse. Like, even in War, there was packs of chimps walking by in the like prison colony thing, in the slave camp, and I was like, oh, there's a couple duplicates that are just time different, right? Like, but I was actively looking for that. When people do that, I'm already looking for things that make them stand apart. So when they do kind of tropish shit, it's like glaring to me. But they were like stuck in like American movie tropes. And I think part of it was like they were written in for a new demographic that was never going to show up. And I think they did the right thing, which was not belabor it, but put them in anyway. I will say I hated that fucking girl. I hated Nova.
Nova?
I hated it. But I agree. That being said, were the humans sympathetic at all?
Yeah, so my response is there are sympathetic characters, but they fall into that same trap that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Super generic tropes. Will Rodman, episode 1, right? Rise. He's just this tortured scientist who's pushing hard because his dad has Alzheimer's, and he's pushing, and he's breaking all the rules to cure his dad. You know, come what may, fuck it, I don't care. Like that guy, but he's
a scientist.
But he's
a terrible scientist.
But he is sympathetic to the point where he is actively trying to create something positive. He's the counterpoint to Selma's Dr. King, in that, you know, Dr. King he's not running a petting zoo, he's running a business. Will does genuinely want to cure the disease. So they're sympathetic to that degree, right? The second person I'll point to is, and it's only two, is Malcolm in Dawn. The guy who genuinely is like, hey man, just give me a chance. But once again, he falls in that same trap of that like very understanding and passive, yet like engaged. And, he's he takes the big risk to go and try to get the dam back up. He's doing all these things. He's making friends. He's being sort of like the reach across the aisle kind of guy.
Yeah.
But there is a quality to that. There is a trait in that that's worthy of being considered sympathetic. They're not all evil, but I just think generally the human characters are all written quite poorly. So I think they're very flat, very one-dimensional.
Can I directly respond? Mainly because I have zero sympathetic. Well, I have one sympathetic character, and it's neither of those two guys. Number one, because he's a fucking awful scientist. He literally does everything that everyone tells him not to do. He does it because he's selfish and he wants to do it for himself. Yep. He takes a fucking monkey home with him. He does everything wrong. He's an asshole. He's selfish. He doesn't even take care of Caesar properly because the woman mentions it to him that he ends up dating, and she's not sympathetic because she fucking allows it for 5 years.
She sucks.
He literally says, I love chimps. I'm also afraid of them. Right. Like, well, check this motherfucker.
Right. She says that, and she also says he needs more space, and he's gonna grow up. And they don't give it to him. They think going to the redwoods with a fucking a leash on is it, right? So like, yes, I get that, and I think, and maybe I'm giving the writers a lot of credit for this. I think they've written him, Malcolm, specifically the way they did because they seem sympathetic, and it gives Caesar a reason to trust them. But in reality, they are the worst people for Caesar to trust because they are the ones that instigate all of the disaster. If this motherfucker doesn't go and be like, like the guy, the second one pissed me off because it made me realize why, right? Like the humans were so human dickish, right? Yeah. They were so bent on their own survival that there was never a time where, because even Malcolm never considers what it means for their colony to exist. He's always thinking about how can they help us live.
Yep.
Right. So here's the thing. I think it is very valuable to kind of take that perspective, but at the same time, as a study of like, I will defend the point to this to say it is inherent to every species to act in self-interest, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're of course they would be trying to negotiate and claw and try to get to a place where they could extend the existence of their colony. Like that doesn't make them inherently bad.
I didn't say he was bad. I said he was
like the Malcolm and then Dreyfus, Gary Oldman thing is like we'll kill them to get it or we'll work with them to get it, right? Like that's that story for those two guys. And so for the guy to be like, I'll work with you to get it. That's why I would say I'll work with you. Sort of marginally sympathetic character.
He doesn't say I'll work with you. He says let us have it so that we can survive and then we don't have to fight.
Yeah,
it's literally a threat. It's like, hey, they're gonna kill you, or you can let us get some power, and then they won't kill you. It's not. They'll give you a bunch of fucking vehicle or whatever.
Yeah, I guess I didn't see it that way as a threat, but I guess you definitely.
It's just I just think sympathetic isn't it because like I don't. And I get the point that you're saying about like when you're pushed against the wall, right? Because I do believe that's the point of the second one because they're all pushed against the wall. Their survival is on the line. Now, old fucking scientist, his survival wasn't on the line. He was just a terrible fucking scientist. He was an asshole. He stole drugs. He didn't fucking allow trials to go through. He didn't listen to people. He was a dickhead. Fuck him. There was nothing good about him. He didn't even listen to the cops when they were like, "Don't go that way on the bridge." And
I think I got both of your opinions. I just want to move on to Chuy real quick.
The reason that it took me a while to say anything, one is because I'm pretty stoned, so I'm trying to listen.
God damn it!
No, I'm kidding. It is that. But the thing that I had to sit in is like, I was surprised to hear all three of you that like not find anyone sympathetic.
I haven't gone yet.
Well, men.
I found the girl sympathetic.
Nova.
I find the girl sympathetic because she sees everyone die around her. She can't say anything. She just has to exist.
I feel like
she has no choice.
Maybe a qualification that is whatever, but like, I don't find very many of them sympathetic to me. I feel like if you're a white person, you're sympathetic to them, and like that's my pushback to the thing is like, so when you make a movie, why, right? Like it's impactful. It has to be. We wouldn't be talking about this movies and say that we enjoyed them if like we didn't care about what happens and what is said. And part of it, to buy all of the actions of Caesar and the apes and like their story, you have to be invested in the other people in one way. Like they can't just be shitty. I'm not saying that that's what you guys are saying, but like they make an impact, right? And so like to me, from my end, like sitting there, it's like, oh, that's just white people doing white people shit. And in that moment, like they're so fucking like tweaked because like that's how I imagine a bunch of white people at that level, they would all be that fucking freaked out. And if you look at Malcolm guy, like wherever he goes, yes, he's nice and whatever, but he's got this constant face of like every conversation is like the most intense, even if the tone of it.
I went to.
I think that's a Jason Clarke thing. I think it's the actor. Like I said, they're all cartoonish. They're caricatures. I will say there's one sympathetic character.
I feel like
there's one more that you guys haven't.
And we'll get back to you.
You guys haven't considered. It is this lady right here in the scene where the monkey goes fucking apeshit and blasts through that wall in the meeting.
Hey,
this black woman investor stayed sitting at the table while all the other dudes ran away like fucking sissy, like
that's what black girls do,
like cowards. She stayed at the table. She is sympathetic to me.
I'd also like to point out that the only speaking black character was the CEO of a drug company, which was the most unrealistic thing. Number one, and number two,
British.
They tried to make him the biggest asshole.
Yeah,
I was like,
well, yes. Also, the second speaking black character was in Dawn, who was basically like a throw-in. It could have been any human being.
Yeah. He was like, get your shit together, man.
He's going to beat that guy up.
He's like the guy with the gun who didn't shoot the guy. That's the
keeping the other crazy white guy from going full crazy.
Yeah.
So that's my answer, yeah. I find none of them sympathetic to me, but possibly to a whole bunch of other people.
I'm going to say this. I find the neighbors sympathetic. Here's why. Imagine you're a corny ass white guy and a chimp is in your backyard. Like, what you gonna do? You ain't gonna nut up like you're not gonna nut up like a fucking G. You're gonna fucking you're gonna call the manager, what the fuck ever. Then he goes, how am I supposed to? He literally they drop this jewel of text into his very limited dialogue in those scenes, right? Because first of all, a fucking monkey bites his fucking finger off, bro. Like a chimp bites his finger off. Like that's real. We're real now. He does actually say when his car gets fucked up before that, he says, how am I going to get to the airport now? And it jumped out to me because I forgot about the end. But I was like, what the fuck is he talking about the airport for? What kind of white guy shit is that? And then you find out he's a pilot. And you're like, this is a big deal. This dude not only had a fucking random dude show up next door and cough blood in his face. But then he's a carrier.
Protecting his neighbor's house.
Right.
What are you doing here?
So like,
first of all, he's going, who are you? You can't be knocking on my neighbor's door. Get the fuck out of here. That's the whitest shit I've ever heard of in my life.
First of all, I've had a neighbor do that.
Your neighbor comes over and fucking says that when I'm knocking on the door.
Yeah, I've had a neighbor do that for us, black Jew. So not unheard of. I will also say I got the most sympathy for the people in general when I'm totally forgetting what Woody Harrelson's character is.
The Colonel. That's all he's called.
When the Colonel gives the fucking talk about you're bigger than us, you're stronger than us, you're smarter than us, I was like, and that's why they've been acting this way this whole time. Because quite honestly, I'm gonna talk some black shit. Like when white people come at me and they're like, can you believe white people are racist? I was like, I can understand why they're scared, right? Like I can totally understand why racist white people are scared. Like it makes total sense to me. Like the next thing is not you, right? So like it drew the panic into a sphere of much more like tangible humanity for me. Yes, they're caricatures. But again, I went to grad school. Those people are caricatures too. They panic just as bad over their feelings or whatever. So like, I would say I agree with all things, but I also find them mildly sympathetic.
I want to say two things real quick. One, I think maybe what we're saying is we're finding people sympathetic when we understand the motives behind their actions, which I don't know is necessarily the word. Like it basically is just like, of course he's going to think that he's going to protect. The colonel would be like, we have to sometimes abandon humanity to save humanity. You know, you're bigger, you're stronger, whatever. Of course, you are going to replace us. We have to do what we can to stay alive. Yes. I don't know if that's necessarily sympathetic. I will say that I understand his motive. Secondly, the neighbor.
Come on, fam. Give him a little bit.
They're clearly a demented, not demented as in like an old man with dementia, clearly a Alzheimer's. He's poking him in the chest.
No, that was too much. It was too much.
He's a cartoon character.
But does he deserve to get his finger bitten off by a chimp?
Because he was poking that finger in his fucking neighbor's chest. The old guy, John Lithgow, who wore hilariously stupid glasses whenever he had the Alzheimer's and then took them off.
John Lithgow is also a giant man.
Yeah. Anyway,
a giant
cartoon character. That guy was the principal from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's basically.
I mean, if Liam Neeson shows up in my yard and he's talking crazy, I'm still like, this nigga's got a special set of skills. Like I got to poke him in his chest, let him know who's the fucking man in this yard.
So, like, the thing is, it kind of has to...
I hope he doesn't have a chin.
It has to go the way that Vinh is talking about, where it's like everyone's that way, because stylistically, if you don't set that tone and everybody's not on that same roller coaster, then it'll jump out and look so disjointed. Like, if someone's playing it a little bit more earnestly and, like, it has to be this weird thing. And I guess that's another reason why... Like, they were justifications, and they're like celery, onions, and like carrots in a stew. Like,
well, you hitting us with that weird plow with your bitch ass? You coming with weird plow?
They gotta be there, otherwise you're gonna miss the rest of it, and it's not gonna be as good. So, like, sometimes you get fancy and someone tries to switch something. No, just stick with those three things, and we'll be good. Like,
salted a little.
But by the way, you guys keep flexing. I'm coming for all these backdrops and fucking. I'm gonna be you guys. I'm gonna have more than 4 hours to prepare.
So you're coming with witness testimony.
Vinh.
What are you working tomorrow?
So just a quick question, Kyle. You're saying that the colonel was sympathetic?
No, I'm saying the colonel.
The thought process.
The thought process that the colonel articulated.
I was like, that motherfucker killed his son.
Absolutely not. No. But I think what it put into place. What it put into place was where humans were globally, right? Like he also articulated the fact that like we learned through Caesar's interactions with him. He was like, oh, the other humans think you're a problem too, right? Like. So what you're understanding is like the only conflict is not between human and ape. It is the downfall of man, which is inevitable. Right? Like
and also, which is a point not to be missed. Maurice says, the apes do it too, right? And they exist, and conflict is bound to exist in power struggles, no matter what it is. Right. And I think this is a great exploration of power, of authority, of
absolutely,
And so to me, Tony,
Absolute power corrupts
as you look over, power and corruption. I think it is indicative of how we are understanding power structures, institutions that exist, motivations behind people who want to wield power, and then the motivations behind those that want to hold and retain power, right? And I think that's what kind of like really rises to the top as a theme throughout all of these films.
Yep. Respect. Prompt 1 or 2? 2. Somebody fill me on what 2 is. I wrote an answer, but I didn't keep the question with me.
I think you said that, was it more important that the humans were weakened or that the apes were strengthened?
Yes. I think it's an interesting question. I'll go last. Let me start with Tony.
I like hands down, and this is kind of like the end of Rise and the beginning of Dawn were like eerily terrifying because of the similarity to what we're going through now.
Yeah.
And I think
De Blasio saying shelter in place, stay home.
Yeah, stay at home, quarantine sections, just like the wild gap in numbers, right? Like I remember probably watching it the first time being like 5 to 150 million. That's a lot of fucking people. But then you're like, you look at what, right, bending a curve can do to the amount of people that get affected by it. So I think for me, it's clearly the idea, because it's established early in Rise that it passes genetically through apes.
Right.
So as apes procreate, they're going to continue to pass all of this down, all of the genetic changes that have happened. So, and apes can procreate quickly, especially if they're smart. They can, like protect themselves and, whatever. I don't think that they are in any way a cause of concern for the humans outside of the humans literally dealing with a virus that they can't control. So like the humans are while we're looking at this from the perspective of Caesar, the like you said, like the humans say that they're afraid of Caesar, but they're not like spending all their resources trying to find him, because they know that Caesar isn't the reason that everybody has the flu. They know that it came from a lab and it's affecting the entire world. So like, you got to imagine that if from the beginning you have all your scientists, all your smartest people trying to figure out how to counteract it. And then once those people start to dwindle and the response starts to go away, like it becomes a planet of the apes because they're the only intelligent beings left, not necessarily because they've killed humans or set them out of their place.
Vin?
Can I jump in? I'm really curious.
I'm done.
I want to know what you think of this question and why you thought it was interesting, because I thought it was really straightforward. Like for me, this was like there was to me, I'm like, they're the same, right? Like
I see.
Power
I
is a
don't
zero-sum
think they're
game,
the same.
so that when someone's weakened, someone's strengthened, right? And because I framed it that way, so when you're like, what was the importance? Was it more important or less important or whatever that the humans were weakened at the time that the apes were strengthened? I think those things had to exist in the way they did, because as there's only so much pie, right? And as humans have this much pie and all of a sudden have this much pie, right?
Well, here's why I actually don't think they're the same. And I think when I was thinking about it, I wasn't exactly sure why. I did think that the story that was told in the first one of them happening in tandem was amazing. Like I was like, oh, that's a really clever way of doing this. That the thing that makes apes smarter just destroys humans, right? Like it's terminal. But I also was thinking, like, I wasn't sure why. I wasn't sure which was more important. And I actually think the humans getting sicker was more important. Partly because as I watched all three films, the one glaring thing about Caesar as a leader was that he wanted to be peaceful first, right? Like his first desire was to not go to war. part of that was being super fucking smart. But also part of it was being in charge of a large or like a smaller group of organisms, right? Like it's him and this number of apes, all of which were basically created by his actions. So like even the splintering of that tribe is fairly incremental, but the splintering of the global population of the world on a human level is a much more catastrophic thing. Because let's say you separate everybody in DC from everybody in New York and everybody in Chicago, and then 90% of those people in those respective locations die, then the might of humans doesn't actually work, right? Like, so if you have one strong band of apes that are trying to avoid things, they can stay under the radar till they're found, which means everybody's dying the whole time. Plus you have the humanity, you have like the human panic, which makes them war within each other, which kills them off even faster. So to me, it was like, if the apes only got smarter, but the humans didn't get weak, the humans would check the apes. But if
I would say this. I don't know if I disagree with that, but I think the point for me and how I see it is the inevitable can come, right? And the humans, and we know that we're doing this right now with global warming and emissions and all this. We cannot help but kill ourselves, right? And so I don't believe that your position that if the humans weren't weakened, they would check the apes. I think the Muir Woods would be ape land, and I don't know. Maybe
if the humans weren't weakened, they would fucking bomb that.
We would have Iraqed the fuck out of them. We would have called them insurgents.
Yeah, there's no way that
I can see.
humans would be like, oh, there's
right.
a subsect of smart apes. Yeah, just let them live.
No, I don't think they wouldn't have been bombed. They would have gone in and got them. Like
they would have been shot on whatever. I don't. Okay, so retracted the statement
to them.
I will say this to that point. Then if your question is what's more important, I think both of these things have to work in tandem, right? Because if the humans are weakened but the apes don't get smarter, I don't know if Planet of the Apes happens. If the apes get smarter and the humans aren't weakened, I don't know Planet of the Apes happens.
They have to happen in tandem because they're part of the story. I'm just saying, like, which is more cataclysmic, right? And I think, like, the bigger cataclysm is the downfall of human structure more so than the ascension of a smart, sentient, and independent ape society.
I think one of the big things too is just going back to the idea, right? Like Caesar's protecting a relatively small group of apes that have been able to gain intelligence, whether it be from the airborne thing or whether it be genetics, right? Because there's a lot of young ones.
Yeah, that's right.
They're not like actively being like, how can we procreate? How can we gain more land? How can we rise to power, right? Like Kyle said, he's like, how can we stay safe? Because, I think that's what I was saying, like the humans dying off is literally just essentially creating a template for the things. Yes, they have to happen in tandem, but without the humans dying at such a quick rate, and not necessarily all of them die, because I know that we're not talking about the original trilogy, but the idea is that the humans can't talk.
Right.
And that's what happens to Nova, and what's happening is that the disease is taking on the immune people in a different way. But the idea being it blank slates them. It blank slates people way faster than the apes are like, hey, we're all going to get smart now and start, building communities.
I'm going to point out two additional things. The humans can't talk, right? And we're only dealing with Americans in this film, but like the humans can't speak their one language, and all of the apes are essentially trilingual, right? Like between their ability to vocalize in like normal cadence of whatever species they are, plus sign language, plus English. unless they studied abroad and they got some Spanish in them.
I'm sure Maurice knows another language. He was in a circus.
But I would also say that the downfall of the humans is an exponential decline, and the ascension of the chimps is incremental. And one of the most brilliant things that happens cinematically in different ways is that we watch them evolve in action, right? Like we watch the chimps evolve in action, right? Like we see it in Caesar as he's climbing through the house, or he's in the redwoods, we see him age. And then we watch them advance through war. My single favorite shot in the entire fucking thing is Koba on that fucking tank. That's
an amazing
incredible. That shot is incredible.
Can I add that as a emergency prompt, a last minute?
Yeah.
There was so much beautiful cinematography and design to this. Koba on the tank is great. I mean, the opening of Dawn. I don't.
Dude,
Dawn, the eyes like this, and pull out, and he's just they're all hanging
back.
It is that pull out, right? Just that
incredible.
Yeah, the camera moves back, and you see him, and he's got this. He's the character design for all of the apes is really great, and I love the scowl and the weather on Caesar's face.
Yeah,
he ages. His scowl gets deeper. His wrinkles get heavier. They get deeper. He's always got this sort of. It's so intense and sort of innate to his. He's kind of always thinking the next 5 or 7 or 10 steps. But if we go, let's do favorite shots, because I think that is one of the greatest openings, one of the most beautiful.
In Dawn, it's impeccable. That shot.
I mean, to be fair, the opening in Rise or in War is also the overhead shot of when the only part where they're actually fighting each other. Is beautiful.
I would add to that this one got me really hard. Not until I watched all 3 again. But they set up, and I do think it's by accident. I don't think they knew that he was going to be. I just don't think they knew he was going to be this huge of a character. But when you see the look that's so empty on Koba's face, when Caesar allows one of only 2 killings in the entire trilogy that he allows, when he says, "You handle it," and you see Koba's face, and it's this glazed over emptiness of like he's dreaming, right? Like when he goes to kill Jacobs and he steps into frame, and he's not mad, he's not vengeful, he's just kind of at peace for the first time. I was like, that's as good as it gets. And then you see him walk away, and we don't see it for the rest of the film, but you see Will see him, and you see him walk off camera with that new Koba look that he's got the rest of the series. I'm like, that's it. And then the last one is when he's joking with the guys with the gun.
Oh my God.
And he goes and he gets back to his real Koba menace. I was like, this shit is crazy.
So real quick tangent on that. I want to hear what Chuy has to say for favorite shot. About Koba. In Rise, it's Chris Gordon, and then in Dawn and in War, it's Toby Kebbell, who was, I gotta say, is a huge upgrade. Toby Kebbell is so good.
Toby Kebbell's incredible.
Koba is so good in 2 and 3 in Dawn, and in War, that it's kind of night and day, because I think you get a little bit of whatever in the performance of Chris Gordon, whatever. He's I don't know who he is, and he probably is a great actor, but Toby Kebbell makes Koba the most singular, most interesting character. But anyway, I want to hear what you guys say.
He's also we have both King Kongs in this movie. Can we acknowledge that we have both King Kongs in this movie, Toby Kebbell and Andy Serkis? That's pretty dope.
Toby Kebbell was at King Kong?
He was Skull Island. That was him.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. When I think of shots, and as far as the movie, the ones that always stick out to me are whenever, especially when the first time they come talk to the humans. Whenever you have a mass of the chimps like facing off or approaching like people, they do a really good job of like not being threatening but showing force. And that those moments I always find myself going like, if I'm there looking at that, what am I thinking right now? Those things are always my favorite.
Part of that motif that I really love that they did actually build from the first movie in a really wonderful way was the rustle of the trees. It just kept building, right? Like you saw him kind of go through and you saw like people respond to the leaves falling. And then you saw with all of them doing it and the leaves falling. And then you see like the shadows in the trees. And then you actually see them doing it. I thought like, yeah, the concept of them moving en masse was actually really lovely and developed really well. Since we started talking about apes in specific, and I do think, I want to say this, I think Caesar is the most compelling hero in many, many years. I haven't been able to pinpoint who I think is close, but I think the development of that character over 3 films is fucking incredible. He's a different hero in every one.
Yeah.
And I also think that he, Koba, and the unheralded Rocket.
No, Rocket is great.
Are 3 components of the exact same psyche, right? Like Koba is the id, understandably so. The superego is Caesar, and the ego is Rocket, right? Like Rocket makes it through all 3 films for a reason. That being said, who is, in your opinion, the most important character?
All right. I think, and I have a couple, and they're like, I don't want to pick Caesar because it's really obvious and he's the driver, but I don't know if he's the most important. I think Maurice is the most important character. I think Maurice is the character that unlocks Caesar. Think about Caesar as a young. He's just kind of like, it's his adolescent. He's in this ape sanctuary. He's rebelling. He wants to go home. I mean, those moments of him with his face pressed against the glass. Like, I want to go home. So heartbreaking. And he's just broken, right? And I think what he finds in Maurice is he discovers home with Maurice. Yeah. A real home. Because his home that he thought was not supposed to be his, and it was never going to be his. And so I think Maurice is a character that unlocks Caesar, and I think Maurice is also the character throughout, of course, makes it through 3 films, is sort of like the wise sage. It is the voice of Maurice is the voice of reason that Caesar clearly already has, but also is that the reinforcement. To speak this language, to teach. I mean, I love the scenes of like apes together strong, ape not kill ape. Knowledge is power. Like these things. Maurice is the character that creates and perpetuates the ascension and the evolution of the apes that Caesar started. Right, because Caesar is the leader, has to kind of deal with war and battle all these things. Maurice is sort of actually teaching the apes to be evolved, right? So I think Maurice is the to me maybe the most important character, because without Maurice.
Interesting point about Maurice. Maurice is, and I didn't want to bring this up for the sake of like making it that kind of thing, but Maurice is played by a woman, and Maurice is very much the feminine energy of this group, representing.
And the woman was the clerk in the first movie when he's like, I need to see my ape, and she's like, oh, that's her.
I love her. I wanted to bring her up as somebody I'm sympathetic to.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you're going to open this door. She was like,
I need you to move things around. She's like, oh, that's cool.
Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Yeah. Sit down. Love that. Yeah, she's fucking fantastic.
Karen
Huey,
To me, it's Koba, because, well, the setup to get to all of this is important. I think that, and the person that the catalyst to that is obviously important. I think that the thing that he learns with his interactions with Koba is that, like, some people you just can't help. Some apes, some chimps, you just can't help. Like, that he learns that this isn't gonna be what he thinks or as easy, or like that there are limits to his power, and not power, but like his responsibility to the thing. And I think that, like, that, you got to get the ball rolling and have an idea and like have this great plan, and like, but at a certain point you have to realize there are mistakes that are going to be made, and there's some that are out of your control, and like they're
I gotta pee.
As bad as everything.
I gotta pee. I'm listening. Give me
that's me.
Wait, are we pausing for a second? Let's pause.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep, Barbara.
I really want to agree with Vin, because I love Maurice, and I do think Maurice is a great through line of allowing Caesar to understand things. But I'm going with Chuy. I think it's Koba. I think Koba is starting with the moment where because Caesar doesn't know Koba when he lets him kill whatever that character's name is.
Yeah.
Throw the helicopter. But
Jacobs.
Like, it's one of those things where, like, it's unspoken. It's not really like dived into, but he looks over and he knows, right? Like, it's an immediate thing. Caesar already knows what he's going to do, and he's like, all right, go for it, right? Because he knows he came from the lab. He hasn't been with him. So he allows it, right? That's like a huge moment, because that's the first time that Caesar's like, I mean, he throws spears at the truck, which could kill people. But I think that's the first moment where there's like an understood, because before that he yells out no when the gorilla's about to smash old boy. He's like, no, he stops him, but there he doesn't stop him. And that's a huge moment in Caesar's growth. And then throughout Rise, that it is like literally, right? Like Koba is the reason everything happens. Koba, he's the reason that the war starts. He's the reason that they get into a conflict that they don't need to be in. Right. Like they really don't need to be in that conflict at all. Technically, they could have just killed all those people and then been done with it at the beginning. That's what I was like, why didn't they just like murder them all? Like, don't send them back, just murder them all.
No, Gary Oldman would have sent some more people to find the dead body.
Not if he's dead.
Right. Cartoonish one to me. His hair is like a character on its own.
I'll say this.
Quick sidebar about Gary Oldman. Number one, probably the worst Gary Oldman in any movie ever.
He was fucking great. Fuck you guys.
I liked him in it. But he wasn't.
I mean, no. I'm not saying he's bad. What I'm saying is he's not like Gary Oldman is so fucking wonderful, and like it's just like there's a missed opportunity, because I see Gary Oldman. They could have done what they did with.
If Gordon Ramsay made me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I bet you'd be fucking great.
I'm gonna say it. Gary Oldman was
Gordon Ramsay good.
Thought he was bad? I thought he was bad. I didn't think he was bad. I thought he was the least.
But once again, I feel like maybe I'm biased, because I don't think that the characters were well written. So I don't think his source material was particularly compelling. So I think maybe he's given a one-note character, right, with one motivation, with no deviation, no depth, no width.
Yes,
no. And he goes up and he just does this thing where he's like, yeah, you got 3 days. You got 3 days.
Right, because he doesn't even.
I mean, that dude would blow us all the fuck up, though. Like, the whole way. Like, yeah, he's gonna do that shit.
The only reason that you would even think that is because at the end of the movie he tries to do it. Because prior to that, you don't even know that his family has died from this until the fucking final act.
Yeah.
And that is the first time. So, like, yes, one-note characters. I think they got really ambitious in the second movie with trying to tell all of these different human stories.
Yeah.
But they were like, we're going to do it with 20 people. And then they were like, all we needed was 3. All they needed was 3 characters. It should have been Gary Oldman. It should have been the fucking guy and the one guy who instigates it in the fucking thing. The woman doesn't need to be there. That love story, they like pay off. There's like a 5-minute love thing that happens. And I'm like, this is garbage to this movie.
I didn't even.
How did they end up back at Will's house?
I don't know. Caesar was like, "Take me to Will's house." I don't know, but it was weird. It was weird.
Caesar was like, "Caesar is home."
Caesar.
He was like, "I'm gonna draw more windows." That was another thing. The drawing of the windows.
Okay.
So who's your favorite? Who's your most important character, Kyle?
I think it's Koba. Here's why. I think the problem with the Gary Oldman character, and the reason why he's not good, in terms of being a villain, because I think he did a great job as an actor. I think he filled that character the way it was supposed to be filled, but he was never the villain of the movie. The reason why he wasn't the villain is because he was on his heels. Good villains are never on their heels until they're about to die. And so, to me, 2 movies come to mind. The Dark Knight and Unbreakable. And the thing about it is the villains are so strong because villains make heroes question themselves. And the thing that Koba does really well is that he triggers the logical part of Caesar's brain that understands his own ability to be fallible, right? Like, in that, what War for the Planet of the Apes does really well is allow Caesar to be breakable, right? Like when his wife and child are killed, his son, no longer a child, but like when his offspring and his wife are killed, he understands wholeheartedly that he's as capable of just wanting vengeance as Caesar was, right? Like, and it takes him a while to get there, and he can see it, but he will ever be like haunted by this character. And it never, I also think that like good villains are brutal, but you absolutely understand where they're coming from, right? Like we never question their will or their motive until they kill innocent people or whatever. And that's what Koba is. And I also think in the second movie, he offers as much nuance as is available in any of those movies. Like,
so I'm wrong. You guys are right.
No.
I'll say this. I'll say this. Because as I continue to think about it, Maurice is, for me, sort of like an emotional and a moral center for Caesar. I think Caesar didn't need that to develop his character. We already knew he had an emotional and a moral center that he already established, right? I think what brought out the best in the story and the development and the evolution of Caesar, to all your points, is Koba and his, I mean, to be quite honest, you understand his blind hatred for you. Yeah. Right? And if that's his only motivation, I don't need to know anything else behind his motivation behind it. Well, everything that I do is geared towards, the destruction and it's not blind. I want to articulate. I think you guys are right, because without Maurice, Caesar is like 90% of Caesar, right? He's a smart, morally upright ape. Without Koba, Caesar's like 50% of Caesar.
Yeah, I think Maurice the idea of the community, because Maurice seems like his tie to the community of apes, right? Like when he goes to the sanctuary, Maurice is the one who reaches out first. Maurice is the one that's always there whenever he needs to be like, how do I get everyone to listen or whatever. I do want to say, because I do agree with Kyle, that it's not blind, because there's the moment where it's like, I'm going to let the humans work.
Human work. Yeah. That shit was fucking amazing.
He points all that shit out. I was like,
that shit was amazing.
That's fucking brutal.
Fair. Yeah, you're right. It is maybe not blind, but it is an overwhelming.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like all-consuming.
Energy of hatred and vitriol and resentment towards humans, and I understand him, and I think you're right. You guys are. I'm with it, man. I think I rock with it.
Two thoughts that I just had. One regarding Maurice. If you think about it, he's kind of like a great talent evaluator to like get himself and his people the fuck out of there. And he's like, holy shit, you know what? Hey, homie, check this out.
He's like, this guy.
If it were me, I would do this, but I can't. But I mean, you know.
Live your life. Do what you gotta
do, like, oh, hey. And so then that's why when he's out, he's like, now everybody, this is the guy that just took care of that shit. So I suggest we kind of ride with him for a minute. I don't know. It's just me. Like, Maurice is out there. I just had that thought. I'd never looked at that character that way until right now. But there is that in there. It's self-serving. He's like, this helps. This helps me. And then as far as, like, a thought that I had about Koba, because I get the war and those parts and, like, the being able to, like, push him to make decisions about killing. I wonder, to me, I always kind of also saw him as, like, a person that, did you see that relationship as this Caesar knowing that Koba was always going to have to be put in check and be a problem that was going to have to be dealt with, and he just pushed it along until he couldn't? Or was he like hopeful that in that relationship there would be a mutual respect that would be gained? Like which one of the two was it? Because that also, for me, it's always been like no, we're not going to do the ape shit. We can for a second, like, if I got to check you, but, like, no, let's not do it the ape way. Like, listen to what
really quick for me. I want to say real quick.
For him.
I'm going to say this.
Right, go Vin.
The only time I ever questioned Caesar's intelligence was in how much trust he put in Koba. But then again, it reinforces how much faith and trust and loyalty he has in his tribe. And so the only time that those two things within Caesar were, like, aside from the vengeance thing, was when he was like, Koba, do the things I need you to do. And he trusted Koba. And I was like,
I want to offer a more, and this could be an accident, but a more nuanced way that I interpreted it. I interpreted Caesar's relationship with Koba based on ape-chimp behavior, right? I actually think Koba evolved before him in this regard, right? Like, so when we see Koba go out and, like, play with the humans, like, he knows how to play both things. He knows how to play up the, like, kind of, you know, playful whatever. Likewise, he knows when he steps out of bounds and he says, you know, forgive me, he knows that he can just say that without meaning it. And I think it felt interesting to think of Caesar as not really understanding that at first, right? Like, I felt like part of his evolution was like understanding.
He didn't know he was getting played at all. He had no concept.
He didn't understand. He doesn't understand duplicity at that point. And so, like,
I think to me that is the only time I've been convinced that Caesar was outsmarted by someone. And to have it be Koba, who is like this great, his smile is great.
Yeah.
You get that underbite. He's got the bonobo. He's a bonobo, right? He's got that underbite. He's got this sort of like, and he just reaches his hand out and he's like, I'm doing this and you think I mean it. And Caesar's like, yeah, no, you're subordinate. And Koba's like, I'm playing you like playing a fucking
like, I don't give a fuck, you know? Dude.
And so, like I said, to me, that's the only time I've questioned the intellect of Caesar. Right?
Yes.
But then again, like the other half of that is, I think that shows his faith in apes. that shows his loyalty to his tribe, that shows his optimism for the future and for redemption, right? And I think that's another piece of Caesar that is, until war, right? Like a pretty, it's a shining light, right?
Yeah. It felt like, it did feel like part of his evolution, which is why I think it's great in war when he understands the concept of duplicity. When they're talking about the donkeys, that whole fucking storyline. When he's talking about, like, you know, they got all these apes working for them. He's like, oh, they were with Koba. Like, he understands the concept of duplicity and treachery. And that's part of evolution. Understanding that there are people who are like you, not working for similar objectives, is part of the evolution of this character, Caesar. I don't feel like it was like a blip and he changed to another thing. Nice. I'm
the Alpha and the Omega.
It felt more along the lines of like, oh, this is another part of Caesar's journey to understanding all of it and becoming the leader who has to sometimes talk to get it, who sometimes has to deal with treacherous apes, right? Like, even the way he talks to the one ape who's like fucking getting the munitions for the guy at the end of war, he's like, you let them call you donkey. I was like, he had to learn how to do that. With, like, he wasn't surprised by it. He was like, you're a fucking sellout, right? Like, I've recognized you before.
Right.
So yeah, another important thing about Koba, they're both lab-raised chimps, right? Like, Koba is the example of, oh shit, this is getting real meta.
Oh yeah.
They're both examples of like what happens to one in certain conditions not happening to another in those exact same conditions. Right? Like, one ending up with preferential treatment,
right.
One not ending up with preferential treatment.
Right.
Best hang. I like this question.
It's a super weird question for this.
It's a hella weird question.
It's a really weird question. That's what I was talking about. I don't know if the question works as well in this particular film series, but it is a weird question for this movie series. For sure.
I can start just because it would be that veterinarian. What is her name? Frida Pinto?
Frida Pinto?
Oh.
Thought about it. She's probably boring as fuck.
Her, because she's fine. And she clearly has terrible judgment in men.
Boo! She
are we hanging there, like in that world, or here?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, because if I'm hanging there, I'm with Gary, because I need to know what your crazy ass is up to at all times, and I'm gonna be your best friend, so that I know when I have to go. Caesar, how do I join the club? I'm team Caesar now. That dude's crazy.
Okay. Vin?
I was in between actually both Maurice and Koba. I think Koba's a fucking wild card, man. Like, I feel like if you went out with Koba, the night would either end up with like both of you in a fist fight.
He's like a how do I amuse you kind of guy.
Shit, having a great time. I feel like that's a Koba night. I think Maurice is just like, he would welcome, like, he's the monkey that like I would like randomly. He would like random running me in the forest. He'd be like, "Hey man, you're cool, dude. You good? Yeah, come back to my tribe. We're good."
He'd also be like, "You drove to drive."
I'm also gonna be like vouch for you, so they don't fuck with you. And then
Maurice would be a dope wing ape.
Bro, easy from me. It's Rocket.
Rocket is loyal as shit.
Easily,
Rocket is fucking down as fuck.
Easily, Rocket. Rocket is down every time to do any motherfucking thing. He's like, "What are we doing? Who are we fucking up? We good?"
He saves him at the end.
Yeah,
he goes in to save that little girl because he's like, "Fuck it, we got this right." Go in.
Keep in mind, he was the one he fucked up in the first one.
Yep. he was
does that make him a good hang or does it make him a good friend? I'm just saying. I got some great friends and not great hangs. I'm just saying.
No, I'm saying.
I'm just saying, man.
We got a lot of loyal friends. I don't want to hang out with them.
He was about that action in the beginning. Caesar had to fuck him up. Caesar had to check him. But he was like, you know what? I'm going to give you these cookies. You empower the rest. And he was like, I got it. I'm with you. What are we doing? Let's roll. Like, I feel like he's ride or die. Plus, he ain't about that nonsense. Not only does he stay with him, he also steps up when he's about to get fucking done in war. He like steps up and clowns to get captured. That's a homie right there.
I would argue that
he'll go and fall on a grenade for me. He'll fall on a grenade.
Like, you know? Like, what's he got at the clubs like? You know what I mean?
No, he's falling on grenades.
That's what I'm saying. Like, on grenades left and right. Yeah, if I'm looking to get into some fisticuffs, yeah, sure, I'll Rocket's that dude. But like, you know, is he funny? I don't know. I don't know if he's funny. He's always funny.
Bro. If he'll ride out to find a new place to live, he'll fall on a couple grenades, buy a couple shots, you know, make sure you're cool. Like, text you, be like, how was last night?
That's a great friend.
I don't want to be quarantined with. Who would you rather be quarantined with?
Easy. It's easy, Rocket. We're playing 2K.
You were feeling okay every 5 minutes. You good? All right? You good? By like day 10, you'd be like, I'm all right, man.
Nah. He'll also not ask.
That thinks there's the difference between a great hang and a great friend. Am I the only person who thinks that?
No, you're not.
No. I agree with you, but I actually think Rocket is a great.
I feel like I'm a great friend, but I'm not the best hang.
I think Rocket's a great hang. Maurice is not a good hang. He's like the dude who's like, I think you've had too much, and you're like, shut the fuck up, bitch.
You got out of the lab for that?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Rocket's not a great hang. He's like, hey man, maybe you should get an Uber instead of getting your car. You're like, fuck you, man.
That's Maurice. Like, I'm not trying to do that shit. Koba's like, yo, let's get an Uber in the bathroom. And you're
Maurice,
like, wait. Found
it? Rocket is like, yo, you want to keep drinking? All right, I'm in.
Yeah, let's roll.
Me and Gary are checking the phone, like the radio wires. We're out here trying to save everybody. Like, we're doing
Talk
things.
About fisticuffs.
Hey, I'm dying in bed with Frida Pinto.
Gary's out here trying to pull a gun in the club. Nah. Throwing chairs and shit.
Nah.
I mean, look, we don't have to agree on that one. That's cool. It's fine. Okay.
Does Rocket know words? I don't think Rocket knows how to talk.
Rocket does know words. Rocket does know words.
I don't know.
You're great. I love you.
We haven't touched recast.
That was gonna be my next one. I'm on it. Now, recast the major role. I'm interested to know what people think. Mine was easy. It took me 20 seconds, maybe.
Why don't you
go?
All right, go ahead then.
Mark Wahlberg as Will.
Fuck Mark Wahlberg. He's a racist piece of shit who committed hate crimes against Vietnamese people and then try to get that shit expunged from his fucking record to open Wahlberg. Fuck Mark Wahlberg.
As a black dude, I thought about it. I was like, he's got a hate crime against Asians. But look, if I just went against everybody who had hate crimes against black people, there'd be nobody left.
Yeah. You know what? I say fuck black people against black people too. So you know what? Hey man, what about Asian dudes?
Hey, Kyle, did you write for
What about Asian dudes, man?
Tony, I heard you. Tony, I heard you. That was good. No, I knew it was going to be a problem, but I said it. Look, it don't got to be yours. But I did take that into account. I was like, oh, yo, he got a history. I was like, yo, I got family that got histories, so I don't know. But part of the reason why I said it first was because he was in the other one, and I just hated James Franco.
Agreed. Hate James Franco. Hate Mark Wahlberg more.
That's fair. Understandable.
I hated James Franco, but I felt like it worked because I disliked him enough to be like,
you can go. Yeah. You didn't miss him.
No, and I'm really glad. I mean, they paced the movie so perfectly so that it like became so little about him by the time we got to the second act. It wasn't jarring that he was barely in the second half of the movie.
Let me give you option 2, and this one came right after. A live action Samuel Jackson as Koba. Just straight up Sam Jackson. In a like regular ass.
I don't know if that works. I'll say this. Sam Jackson is really expressive physically and vocally, but I don't think he's expressive facially in the same way that Kobo was. So I'll say
that's why I want it.
But I'll say this: my recast for Franco, because I hate James Franco, he fucking sucks. He's not funny anymore. Is I wanted that character to feel more redeeming and have more qualities that made you want to relate to him and root for him. So I picked Anton Yelchin. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
He's got a softness to him. He's got a gentleness to him. You kind of want him to win, even though he might be doing some fuck shit. Like you want.
I just watched Alpha Dog again. He was great in that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's mine.
I don't know why you're trying to push this. We should feel like this guy should win. He's a jackass. He fucking takes a bunch of medicine home with him. What a fucking asshole.
He causes a pandemic because he's illegally testing drugs. He doesn't know that works. I'm his poor father.
So there's no way you make that character likable, whoever he is.
That for me, like if you make that character likable, you change the story. Because if you make him likable, then you're worried about what's going to happen to him. But because he's put himself in this position when all the shit starts going down, by the end of the movie, you're not like, I wonder what's going to happen to fucking Dr. Jackass. You're like, he's going to die. Fuck it. Because I feel like we're in a position with Caesar, right? Like Caesar realizes that even he's not there for him. He's not doing it for Caesar because otherwise he wouldn't have had him on a leash. He was in the same situation that he was there, and he wasn't with other apes. You know, whatever. I'm not recasting it because fuck James Franco. He's in a perfect role as a guy that fucking hopefully dies at the end of the movie.
So who's your recast?
My recast, I you know, it's hard. I think that I know that I'm gonna get flack for this from two of you, but I recast Gary Oldman with Gary Shandling because the guy is fucking
yes, and
he's just like
then you turn it into a comedy.
I mean, but he essentially was a fucking bumbling fool. Like, he had nothing under control.
He would actually be more restrained if it were played by Gary Shandling.
Right.
Yeah, are we really doing that?
Out there.
Should we trust
The
him?
only person you could recast Gary Oldman with would be... I was gonna say the guy from Tinker Tailor's Soldier Spy.
Oh, Benedict Cumberbatch?
No, it's him. It's him.
Gary Oldman.
The facial hair was different. He was combed. No, I would recast Jeff Goldblum would be in the movies instead of Malcolm.
He would play Malcolm from Jurassic. No.
Yeah.
He would play his character from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, this question was tough for this one. It's like so many characters that are really crucial are like mocap characters. And so you get these really good performances, and I'm like, who else could give a performance that's like, you know, what you get from Circus?
All right. Well, it's also hard because they're all good, right? Like it'd be different.
Right.
But like I still think about the only redeeming quality or the only redeeming part of that Tim Burton Planet of the Apes movie is fucking Tim Roth.
Right.
And so part of me is like, it's such
a bad movie.
It's such a terrible movie. But Tim Roth was the only person that showed up to work, right? Like he was like, all right, let's do this thing. And everybody else was like, this motherfucker's serious.
Does Woody Harrelson need to recast in it?
I don't think Woody Harrelson needs to be recast. I think
William Dafoe That's who you replace Gary Oldman with. And that's the only guy.
But then you're getting the same type of performance.
It's the same fucking performance.
That was a firefight! Come on.
No, I need something different.
What if you just randomly make...
Would you get a recast? I mean, he just kind of does the Colonel make the movie better if he's all of a sudden not this fucking just like singularly focused, monotone character? If he's like George Clooney, who's like soft, right?
No,
and then like you see there's softness in it, and then there's venom in it, right? Like
because I think the reason why the Colonel shouldn't be more nuanced is because he is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like in the movie, he's crazy, right? Like we learn that he is actually not the standard for even human military might.
Understood, but what does it make the story more interesting? Does it add something to the story if you discover, as you kind of learn more about him, that he seems at first to be kind of like not crazy, and then you find towards the end he's actually deranged? Does it add to the story? I think it could. If he plays with nuance and all of a sudden, in the beginning, you start to kind of relate to him and you can see why he's doing things he does. And then by the end, you're like, holy shit, I've been fucking rooting for this monster. Does that make the movie better? I don't know if it does. I'm just saying.
My only pushback to that is at this point in the series, there's no way we're not rooting for Caesar.
Right.
Like Caesar is our main character. And I think if we try to, because I feel like it was the downfall of the only bad thing for me about the second movie was how much they tried to make humans part of the good. Fair. And it was just like, we're in the story for Caesar. We're in the story for what he's going through. So like they literally, not that they don't need to be one-note characters, and I don't think that Woody Harrelson was. I think he played a great, insane fucking person and like just in his own world. But he's there to serve as a tool for Caesar to be like, right? Like he's like a human. He's like a human version of what he saw Koba become.
Yeah.
And he's what he doesn't want to become. But even in the end, he's like, fuck it. I that is what I've become. Because this is what this war has made me.
I agree. Chuy, what are you look like you want to say something?
No, good.
I was just gonna say I think similarly to Tony, I don't think nuance necessarily helps him because we've already seen that journey and we understand why Koba is that way already, right? So like him being the human analog to Koba almost immediately makes me okay with him being brutal. I also think that like him as a brutal war tactician is not out of the realm of reality for me. Right?
No.
Like, that already exists. So like that one as opposed to isn't it Kurtz? Is that what's his, no, that's totally Apocalypse Now. Gary Oldman's character, like it felt weird with his character, but it didn't feel that weird with Woody Harrelson. I was kind of okay with him being too far gone. I will say I absolutely hated that Apocalypse Now graffiti in the fucking.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
I was like, that's why would you do that? And
there was a number of like fan service shit that they did that I was like, all right, I get it. Like Nova is apparently the name of one of the main characters.
She's the mute chick in the original series. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the get your stinking paws off, like that line, the get your stinking paws off.
Which, by the way, comes after the most important quote in the entire film. Comes right before it.
Are we in best quote land?
I feel like we're there, but go ahead. Go ahead, Tony. You got more.
I don't remember. I got really interested in what y'all were saying. I was just, yeah.
Yeah. I just felt like my favorite quote, and I think the most important quote in the entire film is no. when he speaks for the first time, he's the most powerful sentence in the English language. B, I was in that movie thinking, this is pretty good, like letting it wash over me. And the minute he said that shit, I was like, and I heard somebody in the back when I saw it in the theater go, oh shit.
That's awesome.
I remember the first time I saw that, I fucking like hairs on my. I was like, oh
yeah.
I was that guy.
And they did it a complete full amount of respect by letting it wash over the human actors in that way, getting their into it, and it gave me, for the first time, I was like, oh, this is a story about a chimp, and I was like, right, we got to get to a Planet of the Apes, right, like. At some point, these motherfuckers talk, right? Like, and have a society. It's single-handedly, to me, the most important quote in the entire film. I'm interested to hear where we're at with the rest of you.
I would agree with that. The only other one, human work. Somebody mentioned that earlier. That shit, like.
Yeah,
that's like
it breaks your fucking heart, man. It breaks your
heart. I feel like that one's like it's like a catharsis.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have the weight of no. Like, it's got like a real catharsis though. It makes you go, oh yeah.
Well, especially because it is I think it's one of the first or only times that Koba is genuinely like open. Mm-hmm. Right, like he's not saying it out of anger.
He's vulnerable, like he's hurt. Point.
Right.
He's talking about his hurt.
He's like, yo, like I get what you're saying. Yeah. This is what they fucking did.
And that and for me, it only is in the conversation of no because it's when the beginning of Caesar's eventual like no dude, you got to listen, like this isn't just about how you see this shit. Like, there's other people out here. So you're not just building this utopia, and you're not just our god. Like,
you're not the only voice.
I got shit out here too, dog. Like, I got to take care of some stuff. So, but he doesn't see it right away. And so,
I've got a couple that I think, like, obviously, Apes Together Strong is a theme. I don't feel like it's as important or as impactful because it's not delivered in the way. The scene with Maurice and, he's got the twigs, whatever. I think it's a nice scene, but I don't think it's got the same impact as No.
It doesn't have the gravitas.
Yeah. I will say, though, one that did make me go, like, to like what you were talking about, Tony, was when Caesar goes, Caesar is home. Right? At the end of Rise.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit. This is the beginning, like, right? Like this story isn't ending. He's now discovered where he belongs, and he's actually creating this world. So for me, I would put Caesar is home on the same sort of level as No in terms of import or like impacting the film, and then just like badass moments like Caesar weak, Koba weaker.
Yeah.
It's just like a nice comeuppance moment. I love that.
That was tight.
Gunshot wound, half that, like.
Just a nice little moment.
Just to frame all of this, which I think for the sake of this particular franchise, I will also say that they picked their dialogue very carefully at a lot of points. And I thought it was really fucking amazing. Like, because to me, ultimately, like, it's hard to argue with No, but there are a lot of things that are in the running for really fucking important, right? Like, as much as I love Ape Together Strong, or like, I also love when Maurice is just like, ape stupid, you know what I mean? Like, in sign language. But I also love like when Maurice has a lot of them.
Yeah.
When Maurice says like, you sound like Koba.
Yeah.
Or what do you say? I hear you, but I can't leave her.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I was like, oh, these are points of divergence, right? Like when we're dealing with with nuance within this population of like a truly new society that didn't exist, a couple of years ago, right? Like this whole society didn't exist 5 years ago, and now they're dealing with individuality in an interesting way. I also loved when the colonel is like posing the question basically of like, how do I know you'll show, like, why would you show us mercy? He's like, I offered you mercy when I sent back your fucking soldiers and you killed my wife and child. And like, you could see him be like, yep, that's real. So I felt like because their language was limited and usually like in this like almost infinitive frame of speaking, like the dialogue from the actors really hit.
Right. No, absolutely. I agree. They said so much with so little words. Like whenever Caesar says stuff like, we have more like a future, he's speaking in single word sentences. Mm-hmm. And then the designer in me, because I'm a fucking nerd, loves the fact that when the apes are speaking, the subtitles are styled in Futura, which is like a really nice, it's sort of like elegant font that works well in short clips, right? Like they're not writing long sentences. Futura would not work if you did a whole line of subtitles, but because the apes were speaking in a couple of words at a time, it came out on the screen as like this sort of impactful, important thing that they were saying. It just made it feel that much more interesting.
And I also loved I want to acknowledge for me, like there's a couple times where, I messed it up a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Look, I'm a man, bro.
For sure. It's that there are so many moments where it's just like, it's brutal.
It got me, bro. Like, and one of them was like the very end, when Maurice like gives him permission to die.
Yeah.
Where he recognizes he's like mortally wounded, and he's like, dude, your son will absolutely know who you are. And that's like it. And I was like, don't do that to me. I can't
remember what he says, but he also recognizes that he's like, they brought us home, right? Like, I'm good. I don't need to be,
I need nothing, like
they don't need me to be together. They don't, I forget what it is, but he essentially says that they don't need me to be together anymore, right? Like
community exists, and it's the mark of true leadership, right? And I will say, I think it's a testament to the quality of the film that, yes, there are some things that are inarguably good quotes, but so much of it is quotable because it's handled well. Like that language.
We lost Chuy.
Chuy was like, fuck y'all.
He was like,
no, I don't let you talk, man. Fuck. I'm curious, what is your favorite? What was your favorite?
God, it's hard, man. All right, I'm going to do it like moderator for the episode and praise all three in different ways. And then I'll give you my best. So, number one is the one that introduced some truly beautiful tropes in a very like subtle way. It introduces some things that like could go unnoticed in subtle ways, like the evolution through movement, the subtle luring, the like teasing of Koba in, the rustling of the leaves, the downfall of man, all of that shit. It's paced, I think, better than the other two. I think the first one is paced better than the other two. I think number two has the best cinematography of action. It has the best character development, but it's a little long, right? Like, I think the fight between him and Koba is a little like strained for me. But it just has some of the best like point of view. It has the best point of view of the series from multiple characters. 3 is the most complete film. in my opinion. War for the Planet of the Apes is the most complete film. And I think like it's the most mature film. I think Matt Reeves kind of didn't know exactly what he was doing in the second one after taking over the franchise as director, but stumbled upon a good job. And then in 3, got out of the way of the story that was happening in many cases. In a couple of ways, I was like, shut up, bro. But I do think 3 is the most complete filmic experience for me. So I would have to say it's and it wasn't before I rewatched them. 2 was my favorite, but I think actually 2 is my least favorite. Oddly enough, as a movie, 3 I think is the best.
I agree. I go 3-1-2.
3-1-2.
Yep.
I'm in the same boat. Although I do think 2 has so much. I wish they would have cut out a lot of it.
Yeah, like it's just a little overwrought.
Yeah, there's just plus, and I need to say it because it fucking made me crazy.
Yeah.
When Gary Oldman explodes the bottom of that fucking thing with what amounts to, I took down 40 pounds because there were at least 8 5-pound blocks of C4.
Yeah.
On the wall. So 40 pounds of C4. He fucking explodes, and old boy fucking jumps under a subway thing.
And he's fine? Yeah.
Like, not even singed. He comes out fucking perfectly fine. Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But I think that was part of like, right, that's the mix, that I think, and that was the Matt Reeves thing where he leaned a little hard on the humans being that important to the story. Because he could have died, it wouldn't have made a difference to the story.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
last one.
3 is beautiful.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So Chuy's just trying to get reconnected to his
3
wife.
are beautiful. I think that like the Western style of shooting, they're traveling.
Yeah. Dude, it's
the wide establishing shots.
But also,
it's so gorgeous. Like the vistas, all of that is.
Can someone tell me if what kind of fucking horse can hold a silverback ape and a fucking howler monkey?
Like you have to have a fucking a fucking Budweiser coach.
Like that motherfucker is riding his horse and grabs Rocket up off the floor to go chase Bad Ape.
You got a chimp and a motherfucking orangutan on the
Also, to be quite honest, I feel like monkeys and apes on horses in general aren't like the most ergonomically efficient because their legs are short and their bodies are long, so the balance is not as good. Yeah. Also,
there's no monkeys. There's only apes.
Also, speaking of that, what is the difference between monkeys and apes?
Okay, monkeys, no prehensile tail or tail. Right, like apes, no tail.
Apes no tail. Monkeys have tail.
Right, like genetic lineage is actually further from
Apes are not fully furry or hairy,
right,
across their whole bodies. They have faces that don't have hair on them, right, which is closer evolutionarily to humans.
Right, apes are further from all other mammals than monkeys are genetically.
Yeah. I'm really just hanging out because I feel like I have a great answer for this. Last Earth city to become.
Yeah. So I want
to get back. I want to do this.
I do want to acknowledge that we all picked 3-1-2 as our movie order, and I actually think Chicago would be the best city. Oddly enough, here's why: access to fresh water,
right,
readily available,
plain,
access to other cities.
Flat land, it eliminates
completely flat.
The tactical advantage.
Yeah, completely flat.
Right.
Access to trade routes and other cities, so it's either an exit point or an access point.
Wait, we're gonna do this on the actual thing though. I got a better one for you.
Oh, all right. What you got?
Is Chuy coming back?
Is Chuy coming back? I don't know. He ain't hollering to nobody.
He just texted me a screenshot of his wireless connection not working.
Oh shit, Tinder's blowing up, so you gotta hurry up. Trying to break this quarantine, player.
Bro, come on.
You gonna be a quarantine?
Bro, yo, if you on the block, I need a buddy. I don't give a fuck.
Come on, man.
I'm in New York City. We all got it anyway. If you're on the block, we got the same shit.
Come on, man.
Yeah, whatever.
Come on, man.
Yeah, whatever. You gotta edit that out, but
I'll leave it in. I'm actually gonna keep it as like an old little snippet for myself. Come on, man.
So what's yours? I ain't gonna do shit. I'm lying.
Honolulu. Chuy is back. All right, Chuy's back.
All right, Chuy's back.
All right, Chuy's back. We go ahead to the last.
Well, let's ask him his order of movies first.
All right, what's your order of movies, Chuy?
Wait,
give him back. Yeah, give him 2 seconds.
Chuy's back.
Yeah, I told you the hamsters are like freaking out.
We just went through our order of the films in terms of best to worst. What is your order?
2 is my favorite. Then 3, then 1.
1. Okay.
All right. We all said 3, 1, 2.
3, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Oh, for me, like, you need 2 to get to 3, and like that. To me, the getting 2 is always a lot more interesting than the big climax. Like, here we go. Like, for me, the whys of a thing are the most important thing in anything to me. And the why of 3 is 2, and that's why that's more interesting to me.
I'll agree with that. I think that 2 has the most sort of exposition in terms of understanding the world and the motivations of the characters involved, for sure. I just didn't like the movie as much. I feel like it was kind of just like it existed for the purpose of exposition for me. But I think I was more excited to watch 3, to watch the de-evolution of Caesar. Are you here? Like, no, I'm here for you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like that, I wanted that moment. And so when I got that moment, 3 was like instantly like, all right, this guy, no one is infallible, and as great as he can be and was and is, sometimes a person can just get broken. And so I love 2 because there was so much exposition, for sure. I just enjoyed 3 as a film better.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's really just like, if you ask me which is better, I'll tell you. But I like them all for different reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they all do different things really, really well. Like, as an actor, 2 is like it as an actor, where you're like, oh, everybody's flexing but the humans. Like, fuck them. You know what I mean?
That's when I'm like, yo, who's playing Koba? Who's this actor that's got Koba? You know, who's this dude? Like, oh, it's a different guy than the last guy. I'm like, holy shit, Toby Kebbell. Incredible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tony, you were saying something?
Now I was just going to say, I think you hit something about 3. And I love 3 because 3 is the most, like, I love Westerns, and 3 is very much in the Western. Yeah.
It's totally Western.
Also, I think 3 is the biggest. It's the most, like, he's broken down. He's literally broken down and has to come up. And that, like, to me, 3 is where he builds his legend, right? 2 is where he becomes the ape he is. But 3 is where he builds his legend, because 3 is where he goes and he fucking saves all of them by sacrificing himself, by putting himself on the line. And you know, yes, he cares about all the apes and getting them out, but really he just wants to fucking kill that guy.
And in 3, what I truly love is, like, you understand how ingrained, like, sorry, not ingrained, but like truly embedded in that society is. Like, he's not an outsider in any way, shape, or form. Right? Like, he doesn't think, I feel like in 2, he's obviously their leader, but like, he's still kind of above them a little bit, right? Like, there's still like a status thing, or like a mythos that's different. But like, he's purely ape by the 3rd one. And you see how they come to his aid much more in 3 than him just being like the dope ape that solves everything because he was raised by humans or whatever. Like from the female ape like holding a stone over the head, or Rocket and Maurice coming back to get him, and Bad Ape like stepping up and doing the shit with his cute ass or whatever. But like you actually see the society step up to help him survive in this one.
And I would even say that this is in 3, Caesar is the most human he ever is.
Yes.
Right. He is the most flawed, egotistical, illogical, irrational. He's the most human that he is in the whole series in 3. And I think that is, that moment to me is still great. Where he's just like, nah, I'm here for you. Like I'm doing this other thing. Like they got it. Like, but I'm here. Like this is about me settling the score. Yeah. And so I love that the Western feel of it. Right.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Like he is and I will say it, and I can't think of, and please help me if you could think of one in like the last 25 years, 20 years that's more complete, but I cannot think of a more complete hero.
They're only because we were talking about this at work the other day. The new True Grit. The woman in
the Coen Brothers one.
Yeah, the woman in that. I forget her name. Yeah, but like her motivations in that is she's just like trying to find out who killed her dad, and she's taking care of her mom, and she's just out here doing some shit,
doing some grown up shit.
Yeah, and like she had to grow up real fast, and like she's doing what that character sticks with me. Well, I think about that movie often. It's a really good movie.
It's a fucking fantastic movie, and I think she's good, but she's not as complete. Like we've watched. Keep in mind, like we watched all of Caesar's life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like literally all of it.
Yeah, good point.
And like we've watched him be a hero in 3 completely different ways. That like just doesn't fucking happen ever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, if you make it about that, I think it has to be
he's like Neo?
A hero that's in a series. It has to be a series.
Hold on, I need to write a prompt.
I mean, series-wise, I think there are people that compete, and not because like we see all their lives, but like we see a development of it. Like I would say like
Paul Walker,
people who are that complete. No. I would say like Riggs and Murtaugh are that complete to me.
Michael Corleone,
that complete, but. I'm talking like recently. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just not recent enough for me. Like
Tony Stark, you went from seeing him before he was Iron Man all the way to when he.
I know you hate him, but I think there is some validity to that statement. I think there is.
Tony,
he's a fucking
I think Tony Stark would be a good comparison if his entire redemption of like him being a good person didn't happen because of the last 2 movies.
I felt like he was shortchanged on actually being fully redeemed. Yeah, I want to give Tony Stark the nod in some ways. I want to be wrong on that one and think like Tony Stark was complete, but I don't think he actually is.
I think that always confused me was the whole storyline with like Captain America and like that whole his parents
the Civil War.
Yeah, like that was all like.
I just feel like Tony Stark is responsible for destruction. Tony Stark is responsible for huge amounts of intergalactic destruction.
And I think the depth of his character. I think we're off track, but anyway, I think the depth of his character is the fact that he's trying to reconcile that for himself on an emotional level as well as an institutional level, which is the premise of Civil War, right? He's trying to reconcile. I'm doing these things to save the world, but also there's a lot of distraction. So how do I get over this? How do I create systems that? But anyway,
I feel like we've gotten through all the things.
Nope. One more.
Oh shit! What's the last one? Sorry.
City.
Which Earth city?
Oh, I went while you guys were gone. Sorry. Which Earth city would become the hub for humans, given all we know within the franchise? I said Chicago was my pick. Super flat, fresh water access, already has an infrastructure built in. So it's an access point and an exit point, while also not being the most obvious point of entry for people coming from other large land masses. Let's go with Vinh, because Vinh had a great one.
Honolulu, Hawaii.
Ooh.
It is a large city. It's got an infrastructure in place to support this the population. It is thousands of miles away by sea, and I assume that apes don't know how to sail, and they don't have boats, and they don't know how to navigate them. So in the time that it takes for them to figure out how to get to Honolulu, you could clear the space around your city to negate that and eliminate that tactical advantage of the trees in the forest. It is isolated. It is surrounded by sea. You could live off of the ocean and the sun and surfing.
I'm going to challenge that. Here's why. It is also an island of import, insofar as that, like, many of the things that they use on a daily basis are imported. So living off the fat of the land in Hawaii is actually not the norm for Hawaiians.
Well, I would rebut with given the fact that humanity has collapsed and the infrastructures that are supplying Chicago, New York, LA, San Francisco are crumbling anyway, that disadvantage is no longer relevant.
No, disagree. Because if
you are every place,
I'm re-rebutting
about Chicago is that it is a city of import and export. It is a hub for
corn everywhere.
freight.
But we also have stockpiles.
Corn.
We also have stockpiles and ready access to things that aren't
we have stockpiles of salt.
accessible by land. Right, like the things we want are many.
Bro, you're in New York. You said we. Come on, you're in New York, man. Come on, you're in Flatbush.
What's up? What you
You're in
say?
Flatbush, bro. You talking about we? You're in Flatbush, bro. Chill.
Shit.
You'd have to make it back here, homie. Like,
I'm talking about y'all.
Right. You ain't lying. But as far as Chicago is concerned, Chicago can scramble to another place if they need to. Hawaii, you're kind of stuck with whatever happens on the island. So, like, yeah, the simian flu may not get you, but whatever happens if somebody relocates could come. Do your smallpox blankets, like, you know, many others have been befallen. Like, there's so many things that can happen that make your particular place shit out of luck because you're not connected to a larger landmass. And
my point is, with the crumble of human society, being connected to other places is irrelevant anyway, because that's what all these people are trying to do anyway. The whole point of Gary Oldman and his, virtuoso performance is trying to figure out if there are other humans out there. They're not connected. They're in fucking San Francisco.
They're trying to find resources, right? Like,
there's no import-export going back and forth to San Francisco.
What I'm saying is
just there, right? And they're hoping that there are other people alive in other places.
Honolulu wouldn't even have a fucking redwood forest. Like, they wouldn't even have the fucking forest. Like, they'd be stuck on whatever the fuck they're on, right? Like, when the island is that small, the ability to venture out doesn't exist.
So apes are never going to figure out how to use the boats that are left? Like,
even if we're talking about humans,
an island would be a tempting place if you were a boat of Navy apes.
when simian flu.
Even if we're talking about
humans,
humans,
or are we talking about the humans? Who wants to live in the city?
I'm talking about humans. I'm saying like the Stronghold is a city is a city like Chicago, and I will say this: the Gary Oldman tribe or the Woody Harrelson tribe are not the important ones. The important ones are the ones that come in at the end of War for the Planet of the Apes, who are not from there, but have heard that they need to get there to squash this problem. Those people are coming from afar, and they clearly have stronger numbers, right? Like, stronger numbers is the issue, and the ability to travel is the issue. They happen to be fucking killed by Deus Ex Machina, which is the fucking avalanche that comes through. Had it not been for
I'll say this:
they would have won.
When simian flu wipes out like 80% of the population, the 20 or 90, whatever, the percentage of the population that remains in Honolulu has more than enough resources to build a stronghold there.
And
the point of the stronghold is the apes can't get to it. You can't get to it.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to figure out how to use the boats that are left. They're coming.
They're going to figure it out, but they are. They're going to figure it out.
All right. So we need to consider some things because I feel like we're expecting the apes to attack everyone. I feel like if they need to take a boat somewhere,
he's bunkering down.
I feel like if there's water all over, they're not going to take a fucking boat somewhere. I'm going with Santo Domingo in Dominican Republic because
they'll kill themselves.
That's another island.
Yeah, but it's not that far. If you build a boat as a human, you could go to Cuba, you could go to fucking Mexico.
Yeah.
You got the fucking Jamaica. There's plenty of food everywhere. It's not like
hurricanes,
volcanoes.
Wait.
What'd you say?
Hurricanes. What's your Burger Kings?
Hurricanes.
Oh,
it's real.
What's your city?
People live there now, and there's hurricanes.
Me? I would be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We would be in the desert. We'd be in the desert. There's still
why though?
Because you could see them coming. You could and it's dry. They probably would want to go there. They'd be like, whatever. I feel like you just kind of hide out. They wouldn't come out.
So maybe this exercise is, what are the characteristics that make a great stronghold? I think we all think different things. I think Tony and I are the closest.
What are you talking about? Wait. You can't just throw that shit in. Access.
I'm talking
access.
I chose an
a couple of basic
different kinds of things.
Right. I think isolation from the apes is important. I think I put that at a higher point. And so maybe that tells you about my fear.
Wait, do we even know? Like, does the world know that this is happening here?
Yeah, that's a good question. Does the world know that there's monkeys?
Right? Access to resources, sustainable resources, fresh water, things that already exist, right? Like processed goods that already exist, farmland.
The world's finest chocolate.
Why is it gotta be processed? First of all,
because it's already canned. I'm saying
supply chains and manufacturing disappears.
Because here's my thing. Here's why I say process. I mean process is in like, if you got canned beans, tomatoes, whatever, that have come into the area already, you can bide yourself time while you learn agriculture. If you don't, you're gonna starve while you're learning agriculture.
Bro, if you don't Honolulu let's say the shit stockpiles of shit, knowing that they're so dependent upon import, come on, man. Come on.
No, we still do.
Come on.
Like, we still do. There are more grocery stores in the major cities that we're gonna throw away food than on islands that are like overcharging people just to bring shit in.
Hawaiians are more equipped to deal with non-processed stuff and hunting for their shit than the rest of America.
Everybody will be fine dealing with non-processed stuff once we get farming underway. But like, we'll also have a reserve already built in. Yeah, I'm saying the reserve will already exist.
Yeah, then creating a farm.
Would you say?
The farm already exists. It's an ocean.
Yeah.
No, that's not how farms work, bruh. You can't farm with salt water. Crazy motherfucker. Like, it don't work.
I'm saying you get your fish, you go out and you fish, you come back.
So you mean to tell me
your fucking papayas and your sugar canes and your fucking all of the good shit.
Also, you're ignoring the fact that Hawaii.
I'm glad that you didn't go through with this statement. Are you telling me you're going to survive on fish? Because so you can do that. Yeah,
no, because you're going to get scurvy. You're going to get fucking scurvy. Like, no. Go ahead. Jim, what are you saying?
I'm just saying, Chicago is dead in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
That has all the access points available from all coasts to smack it from all sides.
They can't, like, they won't.
You're getting that action from all sides. And then you've got to worry about potentially maritime attacks. Hopefully that'll come 25 years down the road because the Apes will take some time to develop the Navy.
They have already had Honolulu by then, so it won't matter.
Chicago
if they can sail into Michigan, what are you talking about?
Chicago is the hub where all things come. So you better build a fucking strong ass.
You've got the Apes going through the Panama Canal at some point. Like, how are they getting to
it's a hub for a reason. I will also add the fact that like Chicago also has a military stockpile, and that there's Great Lakes Naval Base. Right, like it's not like we're without armament, right? Like
Hawaii has armament.
With a stronghold, you can protect. You can protect yourself. It's not like it's just a bare naked area that if somebody wants to come in, they're gonna. If apes are coming on motherfucking horses, we got them the same way. Like they're not gonna come across the fucking ocean. Like I'm not worried about apes on horses.
Because you mentioned it, something that I've almost dropped in like 5 times. Why? What do the horses think about the apes riding them?
I'm sure
what do the apes that are still like more animals?
You think they care more about humans?
Listen, what are the apes that are still like not fully humanized or like developed or like regrown out that are still more closer to animals? How do they interact with like they're closer to the horse than these guys at the moment, but they're gonna get over here. But like, how are they like? What is
I don't really think horses think about it like that. I don't think horses are like.
Well, the apes might.
Well, but here's the thing: the apes will end up getting smarter because it's an airborne virus, and the virus affects apes as well as humans. So the virus exists outside of those canisters.
Which is why Bad Ape exists.
Yeah. Right. So exactly.
Great performance by Steve Zahn.
Bad Ape is the.
I thought he actually did a really fucking good job.
It was really good. Steve Zahn is
phenomenal in it.
His vocal performance was just so on point for that character.
When he was like, you can keep it, and then he like, excuse me, she can keep it. I was like, that's really. He ad-libbed that. You know he ad-libbed that.
Made me want to cry multiple times just because he's like, no, we can't go. We're here.
No. Yeah.
Like
even his reaction when fucking Maurice fucking yelled at him, he was just like,
yeah. Okay.
Like, that's how I would respond to that. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Chicago, Honolulu,
Santo Domingo,
and
fucking Albuquerque,
and fucking the outback of Mexico.
Mass?
No, or somewhere up in Michigan.
Oh, you going up in Michigan?
I Michigan.
That's not Chicago, but all right.
Why you? I don't get you. I don't want to be anywhere near trees, man. I don't want to be around forests and shit. Like I want to be.
Hide in the most obvious place.
But there's lumber, there's seasons, there's deers, there's water, there's fish, there's apples.
I would also say I'm planning to survive, not necessarily to go to war.
Yeah, you could
right? Like I don't necessarily anticipate if I'm in control of the demographic, I don't feel like I'm preaching, yo, we got to fight these apes. I'm saying like we need to be able to survive. If they come through and they want to coexist, great. If they want to take over, we're kind of fucked, but that's true anywhere.
So does like
that's the case. Okay.
If it's traveling through, I asked the question: does the rest of the world outside of their area know that it'll? Of course, they have to know that it's happening because there's like zoos and shit, and like if it's an airborne thing, something that's killing them. So you got a bunch of zoo apes.
Tigers got coronavirus.
I forgot what the percentage was of humans that died because of the virus, but I'll say this. If I had to bet on say 10 or 15% of a population surviving on the land, I will choose 10% of Honolulu Hawaiians over 10% of Chicagoans. I'll say that because if I'm one of the 1 out of 10 that survives, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Get out of here. I don't know how to survive that. Yeah. And then beyond that, I'm basically just growing corn. That's all I got around me in the land around me.
Yeah, corn's delicious.
No, it's not.
That's all I got.
You make elotes. You don't like elotes?
Yeah, you're right. But that's like a lot of stuff.
Elote on Hawaii.
You're right.
I'm going to die real fast if I only eat elotes.
But you'll die happy.
Who's making the mayonnaise for you guys? What the hell? Like all you're getting is
man, that shit don't go bad, does it?
You're getting elote, not S. There's no S. There's no sizzle to it.
Do we have like an ending? Do we got something that we want to do?
No, I feel like we did our thing. We'll find a more appropriate ending as we go. But I feel like on the whole, this was pretty successful.
Yeah.
I feel like we floated through pretty well.
I want to say that I really appreciate going back and watching these 3 films this week.
Yeah.
While it was great because they're great films, it was also terrifying because they deal with a literal pandemic.
Literal right now.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. No. I'll give us a closing. I think A, it's good to see all your faces again. B, I agree with Tony in that it was really good to rewatch these films from a perspective of now, and I hope that as we, pick new series and pick them apart, that like that remains true. I can't see why it wouldn't be, but I like the thought that we hold each other accountable, but also like give each other space to like explore the ideas of nuances of how we view things. Because quite honestly, I worry that films are going to keep getting bad. Like,
oh yeah.
And films are getting worse. They are.
Like they're just getting worse. And
apparently there's no new properties and no one can come up with new ideas.
Yeah. It's
everyone's just kind of like,
and the ones that do kind of seem like they might have a thing going, like people are too scared to invest in them. So like, it's a really good way to discover things that have subtlety and technique and craftsmanship to them that I think is often overlooked. So I look forward to the next one, and everybody should take care of themselves. I mean that.
As well.
Take fucking care of yourself. Chuy, get a fucking lamp.
Yeah. Also, I promise you guys that whatever I pick will have no subtlety or nuance. It will just be stupid and fun.
Challenge accepted. I will find all the subtlety and all the nuance.
Hey.
I will take fucking books of notes.